How y'all doing today? Hey, this is Nate, Chris, and Brennan. We are the Rule of Thirds, and it's been a while.
Welcome back.
Got the band back together.
Bam.
Oh,
I missed you guys so much.
Man, I missed y'all too.
It has been a while. Like, good
Been a
gracious.
second, a minute.
But tonight we are getting into, because we've missed a lot of Bad Batch. We're just kind of getting into the series recap for us, going from kind of where we left off on our last review to the end of the series, because the series is over now. Last episode was just last Friday.
Series is over. Somebody help me. Where did we leave off at? Somebody help me, because I don't remember. Brendan, Nate, help me where we left off at. I don't remember. I don't.
Well, Chris, that is a good question.
I got this.
Nate got this, because I'm honestly not quite sure.
Because I don't know either. I don't know. You know, and I think we're gonna dive into just the series as a whole, but just to kind of put a bow on, you know, episode or series one or the first series is what I should say. I think we should do our due diligence to kind of button up season one and then do a recap of the whole thing, because I think there's a lot to be said.
There's a lot. There's a lot
to be said. But if I'm not mistaken, we were still on the kind of the cusp of the Bad Batch searching out, Crosshair. He was working with the Empire, Omega, trying to find more information on her backstory. We found out at one particular time that Omega essentially was older than the clones from the Bad Batch, which I thought was a really interesting, really interesting and cool.
For sure.
Poignant or idea. We see Rampart again. We got a little bit, and I'll just be honest and allow me to speak candidly. A lot of this stuff that was going on politically with the different, the Empire needed to overcome this territory to gain prominence and all this kind of stuff. That kind of stuff lost me a little bit. We did get a chance to see, and somebody helped me out with her name, but we got a chance to see some future characters in regards to rebels and things like that. There's a bunch of dots that need connected here, but I just think at its core, and if I'm getting ahead, you guys stop me, but I just think at its core, this story is about, the Bad Batch and Omega and their sort of development going forward. And we kind of get to see the culmination of that with the Kaminoans. We get to see even the sort of destruction of the city where they were from. We get to see, even, like I said earlier, a little more backstory as far as Omega even being older than the clones, which I thought was really unique, and how they kind of, which I thought, how they weaved that in. But it just kind of felt, and forgive me for being blunt, but it just kind of felt after that episode. And if I'm wrong, and we can go back and forth, and I love that if we do. But after that episode where, the Bad Batch had met up with Rex, and they took out Wrecker's, the chip in his head, the inhibitor chip, and you see Crosshair show up with essentially the new batch of these, so to speak, stormtroopers or whatever you want to call them at that particular time.
Mm-hmm.
But you start to get this sort of. I feel like there was a real peak at that particular moment, and then it's sort of kind of fallen off at that. And where the hope was to get that more sort of Crosshair, Bad Batch, Omega kind of connection, and then the series started to go in a different direction. And again, this is an attempt to sort of tie it in a bow and also get some sort of retrospect, but. What are we down to? 3 episodes that we haven't covered. Tell me what you guys feel about the last 3-4 episodes of the Bad Batch. Brennan, I know because you've said it to me indirectly that you've got a lot to say. So, I'm going to pass the mic to you first. Tell me what you feel. That this series has gone in a certain direction. Tell me how you feel about it emotionally, whatever. And just kind of, open it up to us as far as how you feel about the series as a whole.
So I definitely feel like the series, overall, I mean, I feel like it was really good. I personally think it was really good. I would give it a good rating in terms of just like the totality of it. But I do feel like it went in a couple different directions. Like starting out from like the first couple episodes when we like first meet Omega. And when the Bad Batch were facing Crosshair and like the rest of the Empire when they were escaping Kamino for the first time, you almost got like this sense that like Omega was like maybe could possibly be Force sensitive. Like there was kind of like this mysterious like speculation around Omega. Like no one really knew like what she was. And I guess they kind of dove into that a little bit, but I feel like that was like kind of something that was like left behind. Like they never really like fully addressed like, yo, like, what clone are you? Like, who are you a clone of? Like, even down to the end, they never really asked. They never really, like, dive into her history. Like you said, Chris, like, they find out that she is older than them. Like, they're literally in the place where they were created. And Omega says, like, yeah, like, I was there. I witnessed you, like, your creation. And nobody ever even, like, questions, like, yo, like, how are you older than us? Like no one asks, like, these questions. And I'm just like, okay, like, we're just gonna leave that for next season, I guess. I don't know. So like, there was like, go ahead, Chris.
No, and I'm sorry, but just like one of the things we did find out was the sort of Alpha and Omega sort of story between, Boba Fett and Jango Fett. So she's essentially the same age as Boba Fett. Boba Fett was essentially the Alpha clone to Jango Fett. She's the last clone, which is why her name is Omega.
Right.
So, and I'm assuming that's why she kind of precedes the Bad Batch and all their sort of mutative clone kind of things, because maybe she was just held captive or held incubative, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But I think that's one of those things where she is essentially the and I hate to say this, maybe the twin sister, little sister of Boba Fett.
I think that's a pretty good explanation. I would call it that.
How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I definitely feel like that's like good estimation. I mean, she practically is like the twin sister of Boba Fett. I mean, like you said, like Alpha being Boba Fett, Omega is, Omega. Like she's like, symbolizing the last of the clones essentially. So I think that they are practically, related. I mean, I would go as far as to say that. But like, it's interesting because I don't know, like I feel like the mystery behind Omega, like when it comes to like the relation with Boba Fett and like the rest of the clones, like kind of get looked over a little bit, like as to like, because even like early on they talked about how she was helping like the Kaminoans like with her medicinal, like she was good with like being able to like provide provide like care like to like health wise to the Kaminoans. Like she would be used for like medicinal purposes. and like no, like never really like dove into like what her role was necessarily. And I feel like like there was always like this weird like cloud around Omega that I feel like they never really fully addressed. Like even though they kind of revealed that she's kind of related to Boba Fett. I don't know, but I feel like that's something that they like kind of started to like hints about. Like when she shot that like shot and like hit Crosshair, and it was just like a perfect shot, and like she played that mind game with like Sid, or that gambling game, and she like won consistently. Like I don't know if it's just the fact that like her mind is more advanced than the clones because she is older than them, that maybe that's why in a like child's body she's like better than everybody else. But I still feel like there's like two different instances where I feel like she was like really advanced for where she was, and like no one really kind of like has dived like deep into her origin. And like again, like she was revealed to like be there when the clones were created, and then like no one really seems to ask like, when were you created, how were you created, and how, so I feel like they never, I mean, maybe they chose not to answer that on purpose. That's also like probably leading into season 2, but
sure,
I
feel like they start.
Go ahead, Nate. You have been quiet during this whole time, but go ahead, Nate.
I feel a little bit differently about why Omega adapts so fast. I feel like she adapts so fast just because literally she's directly under Jango Fett. Like she's pretty much a direct, almost 1-to-1 clone. He adapted really fast, so she adapts really fast. It's just how his man, her man, Boba Fett man works. Like, and then she's a perfect clone of him. So like, it's not.
So you think? So you think she's the closest thing to Boba Fett?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Like Alpha and Omega are both like literally the closest thing you can get. So like, skills and everything. Like they tried to mutate essentially the Bad Batch into being essentially closer to what he was in certain aspects, but because she's literally a 1-to-1 like kind of aspect of him, like you can't even manipulate her farther because she's already as high on the specter as like a clone can get, essentially in all of those aspects. So like like when it comes to the, like, it's why like the clones all have like deficiencies, and I think that's one of the things that's also pointed out in the series. The clones, some of them are less deficient than others. Like the older ones can typically live in like normal society, but a lot of the older one, like a lot of the newer ones, really can't do anything other than be like soldiers. Like they don't like they're like common sense and shit. Like Tech wouldn't, I don't think he can function outside of like the Bad Batch and stuff. Like his like he literally doesn't have common sense.
He definitely doesn't.
Like he knows he knows a lot of tech stuff. He knows a lot of analytics, but he doesn't actually know like legit like common sense. Like he just doesn't have it.
Definitely doesn't.
And I feel like a lot of the clones, like even Hunter and stuff like that, when they started getting thrusted into real world scenarios that weren't like just wars where they're following orders, Omega led them through a lot of that stuff. And I think even Crosshair, even kind of at the end of the series, kind of noticed that with like they were in a situation in the model of that man crash, and she was like, none of them. She was like, so you're wrong. Like even Crosshair and stuff, like we're all just gonna sit here and die, and it's all your fault because you chose the wrong side. And then she's like, Omega immediately thinks that, well, we can do this, and Crosshair like, oh, we're gonna listen to the child, and you're like, I mean,
right?
I mean, she's never really figured out anything, man. Like I think it's just the fact that like because she's also closer to him, he had common sense on top of being really gifted. She has common sense, so she can think outside of just orders and stuff like that.
Right.
Or she can think outside of things that are just kind of black and white. I think that's the big thing that the Bad Batch has a hard time with. Like even Crosshair, I think, has a hard time with black and white. He's like, we're soldiers, we should just do whatever whoever was actually employing us do, even with or without inhibitor chip.
Right.
But the other ones are like, nah, we should just stay on the side of the right because that like they can't see a gray area. Like one or the other. At least, I mean, that's what I got from a lot of this, and a lot of their interactions with like Sid and other essentially normal people.
So, and Nate, you kind of brought up something there just at the end. You know, the integration with Sid and a lot of other people, and maybe if I'm missing something, please jump in. But just looking at this series as a whole, we had 16 episodes.
16.
Oh man, this was a marathon. I mean, when you look at a lot of the things that Disney has put out there, 8, 10, 6 episodes, this was a marathon, man. This was what, 3 months of exploration and sort of, you know, commentary. Man, this was a lot.
Yeah, it definitely was.
And knowing that there's going to be a season 2, I guess, and I don't want to put a bow on this too fast, but I guess I'm heartbroken not to ask the question. Like, you know, how do you tie this one up? How do you put a bow on this one? How do you kind of, you know, say, okay, here's where excuse me, here's where we're here's where we're at. Season 1. Maybe there's some expectations for season 2. Like I don't know. I mean, allow me to be blunt for the second time tonight. You know, after that episode with like Crosshair and the engine blowing up and his face getting torn off and him going after, man, I'll be honest with you, like the last couple episodes did not capture my interest as much as I thought they would. You know, you know, Brennan, you and I have talked before. Nate, you and I, we've talked before about Dave Filoni and his sort of filler episodes and character development.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stuff in there, but honestly, a lot of that stuff didn't appeal to me specifically. I was just like, what am I watching? Yeah. And I'll even go a little further to say, I've even text y'all and be like, man, this last episode was trash. this last episode was garbage. You know, so when we look at season 1 of the Bad Batch, I think we can all agree that it was a success, right?
I think so.
Coming from Clone Wars, come on, Brendan, help me out. Rebels. Clone Wars, Rebels, Clone Wars or Rebels?
Clone Wars season 7.
Yeah, season
Thank
7.
you.
Yeah, Rebels is
so coming from that to where we're at now, I definitely think it was a success.
For sure.
But man, 16 episodes to drag you along.
Yeah.
And then just kind of hand you this sort of thing at the end. I need to know how y'all are feeling about that, because I feel a certain way. I need to know how y'all feel about it.
See, I'm definitely there with you. Dave Filoni, I feel like, as brilliant and creative as he is, I feel like he does tend to, you know, a lot of the series, he does, you know, he likes to have like some episodes here and there where you're just like, it has nothing to like do with the story. Like, so me and Nate were kind of talking about this a little bit also, where it's just like, you know, he usually inserts an episode or 2, or depending on how long the season is, could be 4 or 5, where it's just like, it has nothing to do with the main story. Like, even if you look at Clone Wars season 7, as cool and interesting as I felt like it was for the whole Rafa and Trace like segment, and how they even got recalled back into the Bad Batch, I thought that was cool. It really didn't need to happen. I mean, honestly, it had nothing to do with like the grand scale of season 7 of the Clone Wars. Like, it had nothing to do with Anakin turning in, like Ahsoka surviving Order 66. And same thing with, like, I mean, all the episodes where, like, you know, Sid, like, lost her shop and, like, they had to save it, or all the rescue missions that the Bad Batch went on. I mean, I guess it had some form of development for, you know, Omega as a strategist and, you know, integrating her into Bad Batch. But, like, I do where there were some episodes where, like, the Sid one, for example, like, it just really didn't need to happen. Like, that episode was very, like, almost borderline useless. Did I feel like the season could have been a lot better with like 10 episodes instead of 16? Totally. I feel like it would have just been like, you got straight to the point. Crosshair, leaves the group. Like Omega develops as a new member of the group. Crosshair comes back in that dynamic, and I feel like you could wrap that up in like 10. But I still think it was good nonetheless. But I do feel like sometimes Dave Filoni does have a knack for doing that sometimes. So
here's my issue with the fact that it was 16 episodes.
Go ahead, Nate.
For something with 16 episodes, a lot of the characters actually didn't get development. Tech is the same character he was at the beginning of the episode. Wrecker is the same character he was.
Thank you.
Actually hilarious.
Echo is the same person he was. The only one who really got character development was Omega.
Was Hunter
a little bit.
Hunter Crosshair.
He got some character development
Crosshair
in.
and
I learned that I can't trust him in most fights.
And Omega. I mean, the fact.
Crosshair got more character development than Hunter did.
I mean, the fact y'all gonna have me go start off on a tangent. Y'all know I don't like doing shit. But the fact that you had a meeting with Rex and the Bad Batch, and Echo and Rex didn't even have a moment together.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. Although Echo was like, "Man, whatever Rex wants us to do, I trust it.
We're getting it done." I'm telling you, this is what I told Brennan. I'm like, look, when he took out them inhibitor chips, he swapped them. He saw them with some next ones, yo. He got them.
I will let you continue, but man, go ahead,
I feel
Nate.
like the only characters who really got any really deep character development was Omega, actually. Like Hunter got some, but even he was like kind of base level. He learned like how to accept another member into the group, but that was pretty much it. Like
Hunter got body for like the first 12 episodes.
Yeah,
He did.
He started getting bodied again for the last couple episodes.
He was definitely losing them.
Okay.
But he started like regained himself. I swear Dave Filoni did that on purpose. I'm not lying.
He started regaining his
He
honor,
that man
and
Hunter
then he
lose
lost.
like all fights, and then he made him start.
Again. He did. Look, he did get out on Crosshair.
He definitely.
He damn
But,
sure
look,
did.
all I'm saying is,
Hunter did his thing against
Look,
Crosshair. I'm not gonna lie. He
look
definitely.
at how Crosshair is built. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, like he should have got out of him in the fight.
I don't know what we're leading to, but I will say this much: Hunter got bodied for like 7 of like the first 12 episodes,
He
right?
definitely did. 100%. 100%. You know we were calling that out. That
But
man-
when it comes to hand between him and Crosshair, like I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Crosshair doesn't have a chance.
Yeah, nah, he's Crosshair for a reason.
As much as I want Crosshair, as much as I want that character to lead into a different direction and to do something big, I'm just like, well, Hunter's still out there.
Yeah.
If he gets you without a gun, there's trouble.
Okay.
You know that man.
Like you're cold as long as Hunter doesn't square up on you.
Yeah,
like you're good.
If you catch him at a distance and you got a gun, you might be all right. But if
You might have a chance.
if he somehow disarms you,
Right.
and then you are in a hand-to-hand combat situation, I mean, you might as well just be like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, don't even get,
You guys remember the scene like in episode like the second to last episode when like they all were fighting on the same side, but like he wasn't sure if Crosshair was like on the same team, and he like did like this thing where he like moved him and he started shooting behind him or something. I was like, bro, that was some disrespectful thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right. Right.
I was like, man, this man Hunter is bodying this guy Crosshair, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Hunter. I mean, as much as we looked at Hunter for a lot of the things,
he's the alpha of his group. It's just, yeah, I mean.
he's definitely the alpha. He's definitely the alpha of his group. He is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just,
it was questionable. It was questionable. But he definitely proved down the stretch that he
but
is,
look,
for sure.
I learned some things about the group. One, Wrecker don't got the intelligence to be the alpha because he got the strength, but he don't got anything else.
He doesn't.
So,
Right. Definitely not.
Hunter
But
got,
I don't know.
Hunter got
like,
the best overall. None
I
of
mean,
them have common sense.
when you really look at it, Wrecker is essentially the muscle. Tech is the brain. Echo. I mean, I hate to say it, and this is not to dumb down his character.
he's the droid.
he's still the new guy. He's still the new guy.
He a droid.
Yeah, he's a
He
He's
droid.
in that droid outfit. He was in perfect. He was actually in his
He-
normal
He's
outfit.
a droid of the
You know,
actually like talk.
Hunter
He's a highly advanced droid. Most advanced
Hunter
droid
and
ever.
Crosshair were essentially the two alphas at the same time, but it's clearly that there's a reason they call him Crosshair because, man, you're good from far away. Close up, not so much.
He's not
Not
built
so
for
much.
close up. He was
Not so much because close up, it's Hunter's game. You know what I mean? So,
For sure.
you know, but my man, I think it's a good point to
Neither
kind of.
one of them would beat Phoenix Shan.
No, oh yeah, no, Hunter.
Man, you
Oh,
know
no,
what, man, Nate? You know what, Nate? You know what? Not that I.
My bad.
Go ahead, Brady. What'd you say, Brady?
No, I was saying like Hunter got bodied by Phoenix Shan for sure, and Cad Bane. He definitely got bodied by both of them early on.
You know, I would say.
Sheila, haha, it's over.
Yeah, it wasn't even close.
I really think that, and I think we've talked about it before, and I'm not going to dwell on this point too much, but I think it's a possibility with the Book of Boba and even Mandalorian season 3.
Season 3, yeah.
Season 3, we're going to get some live, and honestly, that's just going to be awesome. And I really think. Not to step into that sort of how do I encapsulate season 1 of the Bad Batch, you know, but I'm going to step into it anyway. I think we're going to see a live action Omega. I think we're going to see a live action Bad Batch, even if it's not all of them.
Think?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a live action Omega. I think we're going to see a live action. Maybe it's not all of them, maybe a live action Hunter. It just feels that way because, you know, you figure we're going to get live action with the Book of Boba, then we're going to turn around and get Mando season 3.
Mm.
And then I think after that is essentially Bad Batch season 2. So with all those things, with all those bridges to cross, you know, I mean, Cad Bane, you mentioned it. With Phoenix Shan, you mentioned it. Man, there's just so much stuff to kind of, you know, tie off and really make prominent and really make essential and really make, you know, give you that wow factor of like, man, like we saw. I mean, can you imagine a live action Hunter? Can you imagine a live action Wrecker? Can you imagine a lot? I mean, not even all of them, but I'm just picking names. Could you imagine that? Like that's gonna be crazy. Could you imagine a live action, you know, Omega? You know what I mean?
Like, Chris, we've been campaigning for this since like.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if the Book of Boba leads to some, you know, you get some underground, whatever. You know, you get a little tie-in with Jabba the Hutt. You get a little tie-in with even, you know, Darth Maul. You get that whole underground thing, and you somehow find your way into that sort of Alpha and Omega story. Like, hey, you were the first clone of Jango Fett. This was the last one. The two of you meet. Like I would not be surprised at all if the last episode or last episode of the Book of Boba is Boba meeting Omega.
I'm gonna take it one step closer.
And it just ends. And it just ends. You know what I mean?
One step further.
I want to hear it. Go ahead.
I would be disappointed if she wasn't in the show.
My man.
Because, like, literally, like,
man.
Like, what would be honestly, like, okay, the Bad Batch, yes, they existed in the Clone Wars, and, you know, like, we saw a little bit of the glimpse of them in like season 7 and like in previous seasons. But like, other than that, what would be the reason to even make the show for Omega? Honestly, I don't even know what the reason for this series even coming out would be. Like Bad Batch, like it's cool. Like we get to know Hunter, Wrecker, and like Crosshair, and like their whole storyline. But like, let's not like be mistaken. Like the main character is Omega. This is about Omega. This whole series is about her. And what reason would you want to introduce her to the Star Wars universe when she's never even been mentioned ever? If not to like line it up for this moment to eventually have her in this show. Like I honestly like I just don't even know what the like reason would be for that. Because I mean, like, it's not like, the Bad Batch aren't interesting by themselves, but I don't know if anyone was really asking for like a Bad Batch series, but they introduced this new character that everyone kind of like finds interesting, that she's like a direct relative of Boba and a direct descendant of Jango. And like with being the Book of Boba Fett, like knowing that like he's Alpha and she's Omega, like it would literally be a missed opportunity if she wasn't in the show. Honestly, like she would have to be in the show. Like I feel like I would be disappointed if she's not. And if she isn't, it's because there better be a Book of Boba Fett 2, in which after they finish Bad Batch season 2, then she'll be in it. Because she isn't.
And you know what? Everything you said, I agree with. But I also agree with the whole sort of, and Nate, you brought it up, that whole sort of Cad Bane finish Shan thing. I agree. I agree with like I think because I've already heard like the Book of Boba is supposed to be like 6 episodes, so it's to my understanding 6 episodes is supposed to deliver 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's supposed to be heavy hitting, right?
Yeah.
So we may get a live action Cad Bane.
Oh, that would be
right. Cad Bane chasing after Fennec Shan, Boba stepping in, whatever.
Who's to say on the same side as Boba? They might not.
What'd you say?
Who's to say that Fennec Shan, not Fennec Shan, Omega's even on the same side as Boba? Like they could.
I mean, we don't know, but I mean, like, but essentially they're brothers. I mean, okay. Like, here's what I want to say. Here's what I want to say. That y'all might. Here's what I want to say that y'all might disagree with.
Okay.
Boba, you ready? Boba and Omega are the closest thing we've had. You ready?
Oh boy.
You ready?
Oh boy.
To Luke and Leia.
True.
That's true. Oh, for sure. That's definitely true. Without a doubt, that's true. I'm not even. That's no debate.
So, man, go ahead and let that ride out. I mean, there's a whole sort of there's a whole bunch of stuff.
They tried to.
There's a whole, and I think that's what they were trying to do when they said that Alpha and Omega thing. I'm like, okay, man, they're setting up this sort of Luke and Leia thing.
Thank you. They they had the whole Luke and Leia thing. Obviously, I mean, like they both were like Republic fighters in episode 6 and episode 5, 4, 5, and 6. But like you never got to see Leia Skywalker. They gave you like a small in episode or it might have been episode 8 or 9, but they give you a small little glimpse of like her training. But like you never feel like Luke and Leia Skywalker, right? But like this, you could really see like like Alpha and Omega, like Boba Fett and Omega, like team, like, go on in their.
Can you imagine when Omega shows up to Boba and like, I'm your sister? I mean, can you imagine that? And Fennec Shan is just like, oh my god, like. I thought this the whole time, kind of thing.
I feel like she probably already knows somehow.
That's what I'm saying. But can you imagine that sort of? I thought this the whole time. She reminded me of you, and Boba trains Omega. Oh my god!
That's another thing. Like the fact that Fennec Shan was even in this show, and like you had her like kind of like Omega, like, hey, this is like the world, and this is how like you got to operate in it or whatever.
Right.
And
right.
You know that at the end of Mandalorian season 3, you see Fennec Shan next to Boba. Like I'm telling you, they have to be lining this up. Like, there's no way.
I don't think there's any way possible that they're not lining this up.
Like,
I will be okay. Let me say this.
Disappointed.
I will be shocked. I will be shocked
for sure
if we do not see a live action Omega in the Book of Boba. I will be shocked
if man.
I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt. If there's not some sort of glimmering sort of direction to Omega,
right. I want to see like a reference or something.
Like say Finn Shan picks up her fucking. I'm sorry, I'm cussing. Let's say Phoenix or Bonobo picks up her like bow and arrow. Like there is a direct lineage to
yes
Boba and Omega, and I really think that's where it's headed.
Me too. I even if she doesn't show up, even if you want to wait till she shows up in like the second season of Boba Fett or something, like I want to see some direction to Omega. I want to like not a name drop or whatever, but I want something to happen like where it hints towards Omega, like her bow and arrow, or like something like mentioning like like there's someone else out there just like you.
Like that she's not a one-off character, like
right, like knowing like hey, like there's someone like out there that is similar to you that exists out there, or something like somebody like that, them name dropping or hinting towards Omega, like something like that would even be enough for me. But like this is so much potential that you guys cannot miss on this. Like there's no way. Like a live action Omega would be amazing, and even if you don't do that right away, you want to finish the Bad Batch, at least throw like some kind of hint, her bow and arrow. Or something like that, where like the fans know that watch Bad Batch, like that's Omega, like we know.
Or if we get a live action Sid or something, like something.
Yeah.
Nate, I want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
And we're going to start moving in that direction. I want to start asking you this question. 16 episodes, my man. 16 episodes. What do you think about Bad Batch season 1?
I thought Bad Batch season 1. I think that even despite the filler, I found it very, very decent. It wasn't the greatest thing I ever watched, but I mean, I would watch it. I'd watch it a second time.
Yeah,
definitely not the best thing I watched. If I had to compare it to other shows, I recently watched B. If I had to grade it, give it a B. Not the best thing ever, but it's definitely not like the worst show I've ever seen. For someone, I would definitely watch it while it's on, but I don't think it's something I would actively seek out to watch unless I'm on like a Star Wars binge where I'm watching a bunch of other stuff as well. Like, but it's not. I don't think I would ever seek to watch just the Bad Batch by itself. At least not in its current iteration. Like maybe season 2 will change that for me. But
okay, cool. I'm glad you brought it up. I got a second question for you. What do you expect to see in season 2?
So I expect one of two things to happen. One, I expect a time skip to happen where they jump for a little bit because they either jump like a year or two after, Crosshair and the Empire, blah, blah, blah. Or they'll pick up literally a few weeks or a few months. Like, I think regardless of season 2, there's going to be some type of time skip. I just don't know how long it's going to be. Whether it's a few months after the Kaminoan incident or it's a year or two after the Kaminoan incident. Because there's still a lot of time between the Bad Batch and, like, Rebels. Because, like, think about it. Like, look how old...
Oh, wait. Time out. Thank you. Are you able to sort of connect the dots between what we're watching and Rebels?
Like, you've seen Hera... You've seen the one Jedi who got away as a kid was also from Rebels as well.
Kanan, something.
Yeah, so there are a lot of Rebels characters that have made cameos in this, actually. So, but like I said, but that's why I think there could be a time skip. Like, there's still a lot of time, like, to kind of draw things at how much time between this and Rebels, and those are kind of like the next major events. Like, it's Bad Batch, and then if we're going in chronological order, it would probably be this and then Rebels.
Interesting.
Like,
So what you're saying is we could potentially get the Bad Batch and then Rebels, which is all that sort of Grand Admiral Thrawn, Ezra Miller, Ahsoka, sort of, all those kind of storylines, right?
yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like
Interesting.
I feel like there's a good chance that we may end up with more backstory for a lot of the characters that we've seen. We may see here.
Interesting.
We may see the young Jedi that got away again. We may see a few more characters.
Come on, help me out. What's it? Kanan? What was his name? Kanan. What was Kanan? What was his name?
Kanan Jarn.
Thank you.
Yeah. You said crazy Caden Jarn again. So I feel like there's a lot of potential characters that they introduced in this season. Like, even characters that I feel were absolutely wasted. So maybe Roland will play a role because his family is apparently pretty known. Like, his mom is known. And I feel like has been in other stuff, but he hasn't. Like, he's a loser. But I mean, he's a loser related to non-loser people. But I mean, that's where I'm hoping. Like, I'm hoping we get a deep dive for. Not so much the Bad Batch characters themselves. I feel like they're static. I feel like they're more of a means to an end now at this point in time to introduce other characters into the story and kind of show how they led onto the path that led them to, like, I mean, Rebels and then other stuff even after that. Like,
okay, Brennan.
Yes.
You have said on and off camera that you've had a lot to say about this series.
Yes, indeed.
Now's your time.
Well, talking about season 2, I expect to see, a couple different things. I expect to see also time skip as well. I mean, it would be nice to kind of see, just a little bit of like a difference between like the season 1 and what's kind of going on. And I hope to see a little bit more of a tragedy happen, honestly. I felt like, I mean, it is good that they're getting another season, but if they're not getting another season, I'd like to see something a little bit more tragic. I feel like too many people survived, honestly. I mean, well, not too many people. Obviously, the Kaminoans didn't, but
damn sure did.
Yeah, they definitely did not. But something like, I don't know, like one of the Bad Batch, like kind of like sacrificing themselves to save Omega or something like that, and like seeing like kind of her growth after that sacrifice or something, like seeing like Hunter sacrifice himself or something. So I'm expecting to see something a little bit more tragic, like that, especially if it's like their last season. Being into like Omega's like ultimate growth as like the character she's gonna become. I expect to see, I don't know, maybe Ahsoka or Darth Vader, one of them at some point in time. I mean, as all the craziness of the Bad Batch were, creating, Darth Vader did not show his face not one time. So, I mean, of course, like Darth Vader is doing a bunch of things right now. He's up to a bunch of stuff. But even like with Rex, like obviously Rex is with Ahsoka, and he was on like some secret mission where he looked like a Sith Lord. He had this like cape over his head. He's like, I can't talk about what I'm doing. Oh, God, so hope we get to see Rex and Ahsoka at some point, meet the Bad Batch and kind of really explain what's going on, because they really still don't know. I mean, yeah, they know that the
Bad Batch never encountered Darth Vader. They wouldn't survive.
Yeah, they wouldn't survive at all. So probably
not
the
intelligence to escape, and they don't got the fighting skills to like.
Yeah, they would lose instantly. But like just they don't really know what's going on. Like, I mean, like they know that the Empire is taking over, the Republic lost, but like they don't know. I mean, they worked in direct like relation with the Jedi. Like they went on the mission with Anakin to save Echo. So like they know who he is. They know who the Jedi are. So like they still don't know like that the Jedi are like gone, and like Anakin like is gone, and he turned to like Ahsoka could tell them about all of that, and like so they still don't really know that. So like I mean that would be nice to kind of meet with them at some point in time, and kind of get like a fill in as to like what's really going on. But like also just the dynamic between Crosshair and the Bad Batch. Like it's obvious that like he kind of still wants to be with the group. And that he's just kind of being an outcast for no reason. Plus, the Empire don't even want him, so I don't really know what he's going. But because they made that obviously known, like Rampart was like, Yeah, just fire on that man. We don't really care about him anymore.
Who's down there?
Right.
Crosshair's down there still. Nobody's down there. Cool. Fire
Yeah.
on him.
like who's down there? Nobody's down there.
Nobody's down there. Just fire. Okay.
Like, literally. But like, yeah, I mean, like in terms of like the last couple episodes, man, I thought it was just everything was. I loved it for a lot of reasons. First of all, it was a huge like announcement that like Crosshair like took the freaking chip out of his head. Like I was just like, yo, what? Like this entire time, that's what they thought. But so you got to see that like, yeah, no, like this is how he actually feels. Like he just feels like being with the Empire is just.
Because that makes me wonder.
Also,
did that happen either when he got burnt? Or,
like I'm not sure when that
or
happened.
was the original thing that we seen at the very beginning of the episode them actually taking the chip out because Thrawn and Rampart didn't want people that were loyal because of a chip, and they were literally testing to see if he's actually loyal to the Empire and not just to a chip.
Maybe it could have been like, yeah, I mean, did they ever say that they were removing it? I mean, did they ever say that they were keeping it in? Like, because I thought they like were like amplifying it or something, but I don't know if they ever said that they were actually amplifying it. Like maybe they actually did remove it.
We really only thing we actually seen was like a picture. They
right.
never actually explained what was happening.
Right. So I mean, like I thought that was crazy. That like that's legit how he felt. Was like he just felt like, you know, like you got to follow orders. Like that's legit how I felt. I mean, like, and even like from the beginning, like Crosshair was always like that kind of dude. Like he always had that vibe. Like he just like the Republic was who was they were getting orders from, so he followed them. And then otherwise, he just, you know, this is who they're giving orders now. We follow him. But I thought it was interesting that like he kind of brought up a couple points that like I honestly felt like were true. Like they didn't really come back for him. I mean, I'll be honest. Like he was like, oh yeah, like you guys kind of left me and you never came back. And like, yeah, he fired on them, but they never never attempted to really have like a Crosshair rescue mission like they would have if Omega got kidnapped or something. You know what I mean? And they never ever try to come back for him. Like I felt like I almost kind of felt for Crosshair, to be honest. Like
I agree. I agree.
Really
I agree.
Bro. Like they really did, and they took Omega and were like, all right, well, I guess this is what we're running with. They never really like had a mission of trying to go rescue you and said like, hey, like that's our boy, like let's go get him. They just chopped him up to the inhibitor chip and never tried to get him back. So
you're right.
I felt like that was a really good point. Like I felt like I saw that emotional dynamic and I kind of really felt that. And
I was also gonna say this. I felt like they may have just deactivated the inhibitor chips at some point in time, because you had the author thing on Rylith. We had a bunch of clones just like, nah, we don't want to do this anymore. What were we thinking?
For sure. And like they like the clones, I felt like were acting like a little bit like too personable. Like they weren't like in Order 66 mode anymore. I felt like that could be true. Honestly, that really could be true. But yeah, no, I mean, like I thought that part was interesting. Also, when they were going back to Kamino, you heard that classic Episode 2 Kaminoan music. It was just like it was just music to my ears, man. Like if you know what I'm talking about. Obi-Wan went to Kamino, and like you just heard that music. Like
no.
Oh, you know exactly. Like remember when like Episode 2, like Obi-Wan goes to Kamino, and like the first song you hear when he lands on there. And like that's you heard that exact same song when the Bad Batch were going back to Kamino also. It was like such a classic tune and it was really nostalgic. But yeah, I mean like also just like the transition that you're starting to really see with I can't remember the exact scene, but there's a transition where like they realize like yeah, like the people in the suits are not clones anymore. Like those are like the forces that the Empire have recruited, and like you're really like seeing like the transition between like, you know, like the official transition between I feel like clones and stormtroopers. So like I felt like that was like the biggest highlights of like the last two episodes when honestly
I feel like that's something like Thrawn would do, like turn off the inhibitor chip to see if they're really loyal or not, because he didn't like clones to begin with.
True.
If they're not loyal, then that gives me a chance to just shoot them down and not have to deal with them anymore, and they're already here like, within our clutches. If they are loyal, we have other loyal soldiers. So when
right. That is true. I honestly, that could be a theory because I honestly don't even know how. Like, I want to know how he got it out. I hope they go into that in season 2. I hope they go into why they need the Kaminoans and how that leads into future projects with cloning.
Like
And why
I started feeling like that the moment those clones on Ryloth, literally a bunch of them decided to like stand against the Empire, which literally they
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to do.
Right. No,
And
literally.
then
Yeah.
on top
Right.
of
That's a
that,
good point. It's a
other
good point.
clones like the guy who they rescued was also not under the Order 66.
You're right. You're right. That's a good point. That is a great point. That is a great point. So, I mean, hey, I think you're onto something, Nate, because technically they shouldn't be standing against the Empire. That's like they're literally programmed to not do so. So they might have turn off the Order 66 to see like who would be actually be loyal or not, and to see if they wanted to dispose of them or not. So that is a good point. That is a good point.
Like at this point, the Jedi's are dead. They don't need them to kill the Jedi secretly anymore. Like,
right.
it is.
Very true. Very true. But yeah, no, I mean, I feel like that's why I felt like I had the last 2 episodes were definitely the best episodes I think of the series by far.
Yeah, I mean, they were good episodes, but it's just that kind of sort of where do they lead into, and we've talked about it before, and essentially what's to come. I don't know. Part of me is really itching and scratching to get a live action Omega. And the reason I say that is I think that's just the only thing that's going to do that character justice. If we get another Bad Batch season 2 with Omega and her wanting to do, learn about the Bad Batch and Hunter, and I just don't think that's going to do the character any justice. I think they need to fast forward and give us some sort of Fennec Shan trained, maybe taught, hey, the Bad Batch, because if we're looking at the book of Boba, it's after Mandalorian season 2.
Right.
So let's go ahead and get an older Omega and get that sort of wow, like this is what she grew into. She maybe is the equivalent or could be the equivalent to Boba Fett. She's as good as Fennec Shan. Let's go ahead and dive into all of that. And then when we get the Bad Batch season 2, let's go ahead and sprinkle Vader in there. Let's go ahead and sprinkle a younger Luke. Let's go ahead and sprinkle in some other stuff into that. Because I just feel like season 1 of Bad Batch was primarily based around Omega's character. So now let's just take her into a different direction. And now let's go ahead and then once we do that, we can take the Bad Batch into a different direction. I know there's books out there that are written that essentially all the Bad Batch die at some point in time. I'm not saying that's the case. Maybe one of them can survive. Maybe 2 of them can survive. Whatever the case may be. But you've already set up that sort of Fennec Shan Omega relationship. Let's go ahead and pay that off in the Book of Boba, in some sort of regards, and give me a live action. Oh, excuse me, give me a live action Omega. That's where I'm at with the whole thing. Give me a live action Omega. Give me an older Omega. Give me all that kind of thing. That's where I'm at with it.
See, I definitely agree with you. I think they should take a Anakin Skywalker approach with this, and I believe that they should show us a live action Omega. However they want to show her, she's a good guy, but a freaking super sick bounty hunter, or she's a bad person, like super sick bounty hunter, and we're just like, yo, dang, like how'd she get this way? And then you use Bad Batch
neutral super sick bounty
Yeah,
hunter.
yeah. Or she's just or she's just on Solo. She just gets paid to do whatever job she has to do or whatever, just to survive type deal, like Fennec Shand, or and then like let Bad Batch season 2 be like we see how she turned into be like that with like some tragic event like Hunter or something, and then she just completely off the ropes, or she's all alone or something like so. Like you can use Bad Batch season 2 to explain how in the Book of Boba Fett just Omega turned to be like this super sick character. You're just like, yo, like what? Like she's just like one of the best bounty hunters at this time right now. Like how did she turn?
And I'm all for that. I mean that scene at the end. That scene at the end of Mando season 2, you see Fennec Shand and Omega. I'm sorry, you see Fennec Shand and Boba. Yeah. Like it's almost so fitting to see like just Omega walk into that scene.
Right? 100%.
Yeah,
I was that exact same thing when I first was watching the Bad Batch, and like we found out that they're connected. I was like, bro, I can just see like Omega, like the first episode being that exact scene, and Omega just walks in instead. Like
I can see her with like longer hair, the same accent.
Yeah,
I can just see her just being like, and just like you said, like maybe seeing what set her off. Maybe something happened with Crosshair and Hunter, where she just turned into this beast of a bounty hunter. Where she's just like, yo, like, I am the Omega. You know what I mean? I am the Omega.
Right.
Alpha's Boba. But like, don't sleep on me at all.
Right.
Don't sleep on me at all. Because they're not only that, but like I'm just as good. But there are two of us. So if you really piss us off, both of us will show up.
Right.
I just love that whole dynamic. I really do.
No, for sure.
And but it just that scene. I remember seeing that scene where like Fennec Shand and Boba's sitting on the chair, and Fennec Shand is sitting there, and they're drinking. I'm just like, I could literally see a live action Omega walking into that scene, like, oh yeah, don't forget about me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I feel like Chris, I know exactly what scene you're talking about, because I remember like picturing this exact thing you're talking about when I realized who Omega was, and like Boba was on like the chair, and then like I think Jabba's chair, and then like Fennec Shand was right next to him, and I was like, I can just see like Omega walking in on the scene, like right up to them, like saying whatever, and like just like like the regular trilogy showed Darth Vader, and then the prequels came out afterwards to show how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader. You could do the same thing with Bad Batch season 2. Like you can just be like, hey, this is the Book of Boba Fett. This is Omega now. And, Bad Batch season 1 introduced Omega, and Bad Batch season 2 will explain how Omega became to be Omega. And I think that would just be perfect. And that would be classic Star Wars fashion. So, creating characters and showing their final form before showing them how they became their final form. Gotta love it.
Let's go ahead and finish up real quick. Scale of 1 to 10. Season 1 of the Bad Batch, 16 episodes. Nate, I'm going to let you go first. Scale of 1 to 10. Tell me what and tell me why.
7.5 to an 8 out of 10, which is B average. You know what I mean? It's that B range, which, because I feel like the first season was more set up for potential stuff in the second season.
True.
Which I know why some shows do this. I've seen it before in other shows, but that don't mean I enjoy it or anything like that. Like the episodes where they were moving the plot forward were great, but there was a lot of time spent introducing characters that were probably going to be used in next season.
Okay.
And they didn't get a lot of time. They were literally like introductions, and then they would like fly off the screen, never to be seen again until next season.
Sure. I'm going to say, I'm probably going to say about a 7, around what Nate said, just because a lot of the same things he said, a lot of the characters we get were essentially setting up next season. I do believe a lot of things that were supposedly to pay off, the whole dynamic between Crosshair and Hunter, didn't pay off, or just paid off in a completely different direction. I believe we will get a live action Omega because we have a live action Boba Fett. We have a live action Fennec Shan. I believe that's going to come. And I believe I believe this series could have literally been like 10 episodes. There was so much filler, and there was so much, hey, let's go ahead and take advantage of each episode is a half an hour. But I just feel like, there was just so much filler, and it was just like, man, like what are y'all trying to do? You trying to build a storyboard here, or are you trying to really drive home some content? It really felt like they were just trying to build a storyboard for the possibility of what to come next. And that's well and good. That's well and good when you have a season 2, because then you can pay some things off. But we didn't really find out there was a season 2 till like episode 12. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like, oh, okay, you guys are taking advantage of the fact that you just got the deal for season 2. So, but no knock on that. It was just a lot. It was a lot. It was overwhelming.
Long season.
It was, every week there was something new, and it was just like, man, and you guys know, we even fell behind. You know what I mean? It was just a lot. It was really a lot. This is one of those seasons where I wish it would have been like 10 episodes, 12 episodes.
For sure.
Give me 40 minutes, give me 45 minutes, go to knock this out. You know what I mean? All that filler stuff. If you're going to do 1 episode or 2 episodes of that kind of stuff, okay, cool. That's kind of Dave Filoni's thing. We could talk about that in a real quick episode. But like, as far as the continuity and just the continuation of the thing, I really feel like there was like 4 or 5 episodes that just had nothing to do with the primitive storyline of this story. And I feel it was a waste of time. That's why I'm thinking like this series could have been like 10 episodes. You know what I mean? So yes, as a whole, I'll give it a 7. Sure, there's a lot of things we talked about that we could potentially see down the road. There's a lot of potentially things we want to see down the road. Hopefully we get that payoff. But as it stands, I'm gonna say, Nate, I can't disagree with you. I can't even agree with you more. That's sort of 7, 6.5, 6.8, 7 kind of series. Nate, it's on you.
I wasn't first, but Brennan.
I'm sorry, Brendan. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry, Brendan.
No, you're good. I'm going to give it. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I definitely enjoyed it. Like similar to everything that you and Nate said, I definitely said the exact same number as you, Chris. I thought it could have been 10 episodes, to be honest, rather than 16. I still enjoyed the 16, but there were some episodes that, like, and I usually don't mind filler when it comes to like shows and different series, but like some of the filler just really just like I really could have lived my entire life without. Like some of them were just nothing to do with like literally anything. Like I always harken back to like the Sid episode, because I really felt like in the grand schemes of the Star Wars universe, on anything that came before or anything that comes afterward, it had nothing to do with anything. So that one was just like, but other than that, I mean, like there was some nice little Easter eggs of characters we see in the future. There's a lot of development and setup for things we might see in the future. A lot of nostalgic things, a lot of connections back to previous movies, especially early on when the first episode you just see, Palpatine giving his little speech after he got burned from like the electricity, and like how it just mimicked episode 3, like word for word, but you saw it from the perspective of on Kamino. Like that was just so golden, and I'll never forget that. Like that was very like special to me. So I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I felt like it ended a little weak because I don't really know what it's gonna lead to for season 2. Obviously, Crosshair, that whole knot is untied and all that, but I don't really know what their big threats are. I mean, like the whole entire Empire thinks that they're destroyed, so I really don't know what their next step is. But other than that, I mean, I think for just in a vacuum of season 1, I liked it. I liked it. Would I rewatch it? For sure. I definitely enjoyed it. So
cool.
And I look forward to Casa Bring.
Do we have a date on season 2? Anybody have a date?
I'm about to look it up and see. No idea.
Anybody know? Or even because we're gonna get the Book of Boba Christmas time or
Yeah.
before,
December.
and then we're gonna get Mando season 3, right? Right after that.
Yeah, or I know Ahsoka's sprinkled in there somewhere, but it might be and after Mando season 3.
Okay.
From what I know, but
Well,
yeah, that's for it. Yeah.
Well, Nate, let's go ahead and put a bow on this thing and tie it off.
All right.
And yeah, I'll leave it to you.
All right. Once again, I always want to thank everybody who watched all the way through. This was an hour-long video. I know that's pretty long. But we thank everybody who actually watches our videos. We appreciate it. If you could like,
We appreciate
subscribe, show your friends, family, anybody who you think would be interested in like anything, Marvel, Disney, anything we kind of talk about. We appreciate it. Thank y'all, and y'all have a good night.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good night.
Deuces.